Hello.
What up, Jay?
How's it going, man?
How are you, sir? Look at your mic system, man. That's fucking dope. Are you a gamer? Is that why you got a
Uh,
mic like
I'm an amateur voice actor and content creator. Use
that?
the RE20 for my podcasts. A Shure SM7B for my voice acting.
Fucking A, man. What is the voice acting like now? Because we
I
do a lot of recording, like for Masters of the Universe, a lot of folks recording from home. Mark did like half of his Skeletor run from a closet in his house because, he's not going out to the real world. So they got him recording equipment. A closet apparently has good sound acoustics because of the clothes and shit like that.
You can do that. I get a little isolation booth and it does the trick because the Shure SM7B is a dynamic microphone, so you only have it from one direction. It works pretty good for me. I'm just an amateur one, but I've gotten a lot of help from.
You just fucking whipped out more information than I knew. It's dynamic and fucking it's only one direction,
Yeah.
omnidirectional.
Yeah, but I do a lot of stuff for like YouTubers, like for a game called Dead by Daylight. It's a horror game where I actually voice Ash Williams as a parody series that's technically official now.
Let's hear a little Ash.
Oh, it's not that good. It's just my natural voice. Like, what now? Look who's shitting in the tall grass. I usually do a lot of characters like from World of Warcraft characters, like
You'll face the wrath of Millhouse Minister Kevin Smith.
But
Nice.
I don't want to keep doing these voices because
Did you ever see Bruce at a con or anything?
Who?
Yeah, Ash. You do the Ash voice, right?
I have not met
Ruby Bruce.
with him, but I have met many other members from Ash versus the Evil Dead. Actually, serenaded Kelly's actor. She gave me $20 to sit by her. I have met some of your friends though. I've met Ming, and I got to interview him. One of the first people I ever interviewed for my podcast.
Fuck it, man. Really, it's awesome. Without Ming, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Ming was the guy that brought me online.
He told me the story.
He did? Did he?
Yeah.
What is his version of the story?
His story was like how he met you, and stuff like that. It was talking how he made the View Askew website.
Yeah.
It was a couple years ago, so my memory's a little vague. I have to go back and listen to the episode.
He was in college at that point in Amherst, and he had done a clerk's shrine, and
I remember mentioning that.
it was crazy. That was my first introduction to the internet. My ex-girlfriend Kim Lockram was like, "You got to look at this like kid's website. It's crazy." And I was like, "What's a website? What the fuck is the internet?" And when I saw it, I was like, "Oh my god, this is so beautiful! Like it looks like a magazine on a television. Like this is fucking nuts." And I asked Kim, I was like, "Can you reach out to this guy?" And she put me she had email because she went to college. She was going to Carnegie Mellon, and so he had email because he was in college. He was going to, I guess, University of Michigan. Maybe, I forget. So she put us in touch. And I was like, "Can you build something like this for me?" And we started building. I mean, he built the VSQ website, but I was just like, "Do this? Can we do this? Can we do this?" And the cherry on top was the message board, which is how we eventually get to this. I was like, "Can we do?" This is what I was talking about in 1995. I was like, "Can we do?" Holy shit, man! I just realized that's fucked up. In 1995, I said to Ming, I was like, "Can we do this thing where I'm on the computer and we're talking to people and they're on the other side?" Because I'd seen tiny MPEG clips, so I was like, "Wow, video is possible." And there was a very primitive form of digital video communication on telephones and shit. So Ming was like, "We're not there yet." He's like, "That technology doesn't exist." He's going, "But I could put up a message board, and then people could write whatever they want. You can get to those answers anytime you want, not just immediately. It'll scroll." Eventually, what Reddit came to look like and stuff. But it does begin with me going "Hey man, can we do the exact fucking thing that we're doing now?" That just kind of paused me for a moment, going "Hey, you got what you wanted. It took a long time, but here it is. You're doing the thing that you suggested, would be fun to do." And some shit just takes, 25 years to get to, but now we are in a world where we can
Talk to
do
each
the
other.
exact thing. Yeah, this is fucking nuts. This is Jetsons world.
So, if one thing I wanted to ask you was, first off, you were my biggest inspiration for why I got into podcasting.
Thank you.
And I got to meet so many people through the industry, through conventions. My very first guest actually live was Ming, and then in that same weekend it was Robert England.
Oh crap! You got
So-
Freddie himself.
Yeah, and that started a the snowball effect kind of going on from there.
Fuck it.
So my
Isn't it
show,
awesome?
it's phenomenal. Like I've been now like I've watched a lot of your stuff and on the advices you've given people and stuff like that too. And I've started to build my own little branding for my thing, the Bard's Tavern.
Fucking hey, man. Well done. How awesome is that? Where you're like, look at my logo and it's on the fucking thing. I can make my own merchandise.
Now, with my question is this. So I have been doing this for about 2 years now, and it's grown. I've interviewed voice actors. I've had bands on there and stuff. But now I'm trying to go a different direction with it. And now I've always tried to make it all based around geek culture. The Bard's Tavern is a show dedicated to geek culture and such. But there's a lot of times where I want to kind of like expand just from bringing in voice actors or bands and just geek culture. Like I kind of want to do something where it's like we can just kind of shoot the shit. And that's usually what the theme has been for the most point. But people come mostly for the guest there, right? Would you say that it's not necessarily a bad thing to kind of go in different directions with that? And if so, do you feel, because I know that you run multiple podcasts, obviously, with going and adding like a secondary, like say podcast, for example. I have one I'm working on right now, which is a horror podcast dedicated to all horror now. Do you feel that is something that I should be doing, or do you feel it's best to just kind of like keep it all in one area? And are there challenges with that?
There was a moment like I guess it was like 2 or 3 years ago, where there was a shift about like podcasting within podcasting that had me, and Will would back me up on this, had me going like, maybe we should collapse all of these separate shows into one giant feed. Like instead of having Smodcast and Babylon and Education and Fat Man Beyond and Jay and Silent Bob Get Older, so forth and so on, like why not just one feed? So that what I'd noticed was like Nerdist, Joe Rogan, a couple cats who were doing Mark Maron, a couple cats that were doing multiple shows a week under one banner. So like there's multiple episodes of that show. I was sitting there going, well, maybe it was stupid for me to do Smodcast, then start a whole different show, then start a whole different show. When in combining, if it was all Smodcast, colon Hollywood Babylon, Smodcast, colon Jay and Silent Bob Get Old, would that have been a smarter thing to do? And Will, Jordan, everybody was just like, no, don't do that. Everyone's going to hate that because everyone has separate podcast feeds of all the different shows. And what if you're a fan of this but not a fan of the other one and whatnot? So I'm of two minds. Believe me, I never regret the fact that like I just kept making podcasts. The only question is, should it have been one podcast this whole fucking time? To some people it is. To people that don't listen to it, any of them on a regular basis, they just call them all Smodcast. So, there was a moment where I was like, should it have just been Smodcast and everything went in one stream, one subscription, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know that I can say that we were hurt because we didn't have it all under one title. For me, I was so in love and still am with the idea of like, I could have my own fucking radio show. It's fantastic. And the podcasts like grew out of their own, needs organically. Like Smodcast happened first. Then I guess it was like, well, Tell 'em Steve Dave came next. And that was me pushing my friends like, you guys have got to do this. But then the next one that I think I was engaged in would probably be Babylon. And that was like, well, we can't do this on Smodcast, so this will be a separate thing. And then Jay was watching us do Babylon and going like, I want to do one. And I was like, well, we can't do that as a Smodcast or Hollywood Babylon. I guess it'll be its own thing. And then that just became the norm for me. And, I'm more about quantity than quality anyway. So like having multiple shows was fun. I had my own network. Like the idea of like once we had Tell 'em Steve Dave, we had 2 shows. I was like, that's officially a fucking podcast network. And then I had to live into that title by being like, all right, here's a bunch of other fucking shows. I think at one point we were doing like 25 different shows. So, you know, when we started, there was no norm, right? Because when we started is when it started. Then now there's a norm. And I guess we don't really exist in that norm as much because there are multiple shows. But I can't say that it hurt us by having multiple shows. It allowed each show to have its own identity. The idea for me with the podcasts, aside from like, ooh, one more place to talk, was each one allowed me to shine a spotlight on somebody that I thought was like funny, special, unsung. So like, my whole career, people, because of the movies, they're like, hey, what do you think? And fucking focusing on me. With Smodcast, I was able to be like, here's the funnier guy, Scott Mosier, ladies and gentlemen. With Jane Silent Bob Get Old, it was like, here's like the real Jay. Like, he's much funnier than the movie Jay. Here's Ralph Garman, my friend. He's real funny. Here's my wife, Jen. Like, this is our dynamic. Here's Andy McCovich. So, it just became a way to showcase people that were close to me that like I thought deserved showcasing. And also, to be fair, cats in every instance who would never look for it themselves. Like, not a one of them. Scott Mosier was never like, how do I become the front and center guy? I had to drag him in this podcast, and it was because I thought he was so fucking funny and wonderful and stuff. Jay, believe it or not, is also not the guy who's like, let me get in front of people back then. Now he is, but like he was incredible. Like I'd pull him up on stage for Q&A and people would like welcome him like Christ in Jerusalem. And then he wouldn't talk, he'd be like, "Did you the news?" Then he'd sit down on the couch for like 2 hours behind me. So the podcasts were a way, like particularly with Brian and Walter, who'd been on Smodcast a few times. And I knew the audience loved him. I was like, you guys fucking like should just talk to each other, have your own fucking thing. And it also came out of an actual need that Brian Johnson had at that point. So I can't regret that my podcasting is so all over the fucking place. And I couldn't have forced, I didn't know it was going to become a fucking business. It was just fun and shit. And I couldn't have foreseen that like one day it would be more valuable to have one gigantic fucking show that's on multiple, like think about it. We had at one point, we were doing 5 shows a week. So every day of the week there was a new podcast. And that could have just been one show. And we would be on Smodcast episode like 5,000 or some such shit right now. Probably way too long. Maybe, 2,000. But I don't know, it laid out the way it laid out. So I guess my best answer is like, if you're worried about shifting away from what you do, then yeah, create a new edition of it. Something that's its own thing. Why not? At the very least, here's the good news. There's no fucking hard, fast rules. Nobody's in charge of this shit. And you can be as creative and as inventive as you want. There's no losing, because if you record a podcast under a new name or under the same name, you're keeping the creativity going, you're creating new content. It doesn't really ultimately matter if it's under this category or this title or this title. Having more of something always makes one feel good. As Americans, we love to have as much of something as possible. That's why you walk into the cereal aisle in the supermarket, it's just wall-to-wall fucking choices and shit. So having more than one of something is also makes one feel good. New branding, new logo, new thing to sell, new thing to potentially catch someone's interest. Maybe the old thing wasn't their cup of tea, but suddenly the new thing, like, oh, I like this. So there's plenty of good reasons for creating a brand new brand, I guess, is what I'm
saying. That makes a lot of sense.
Question.
Yeah, it does. And again, thank you for that. I don't want to take too much more because I know there's people waiting. I just wanted to actually tell you one last thing. This is something that I've been wanting to tell you for a while, and I've missed every opportunity because the cancellations, everything going around for meetups and such. Right. You inspired me with about the risks that you've taken when you went and invest money to make Clerks, and hearing that story. I took a risk in 2017. I wrote a song. I submitted to a gaming company called Blizzard Entertainment, and I got to perform on the main stage at their biggest event of the year, BlizzCon.
The
And
fuck? How many people in the audience?
45,000 people live, 2 million over on live stream watching.
45,000 people in one space?
Mm-hmm.
A max amount of people I've ever performed in front of is like 6,000 or something. How the fuck did that feel?
I won first place, and they honored me in game. And you know, one of the things I talked about. And again, I'm sorry. I apologize. I don't want to take too much time because I want to make sure everybody else gets in.
No.
But it changed my life. You honestly, Kevin, have changed my life, and I know that's very weird, probably for me to say, but like, you are honestly a hero to me, and thank you for all you've done. Thank you for what you continue to do. You honestly, man, you are the hero that we need, and you are the hero we definitely deserve, man. And
Don't
thank you
make
for
me
everything.
fucking cry in the last days of my 40s. I want to go out and home.
Much love to you, man.
I appreciate that. That's fucking beautiful. But what I hear in that story is not that I did anything. It sounds like you did everything and manifested, man. You had something to share. Oh my God, that's fucking insane. I dream about performing in front of 45,000 people, let alone fucking people streaming all over. I'm like, what would that fucking be like? So that's tremendous. Good for you.
Thank
Congratulations.
you so much for your time, and thank you to all the people that were waiting.
Greetings, weary travelers. This is I, Kevin Smith, and I want you to like this video and subscribe to my favorite bard in the world of Warcraft, man, Jay the Bard. I am Silent Bob to that Jay the Bard. Jay the Bard and Silent Bob.